Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And welcome to this morning's class, and also welcome to our online guests. In our first presentation this morning, we're going to have a look at the million-dollar question, which is, what is the true cause of disease? God never designed that people to be sick, or to be as sick as they are today. And I think you'll agree with me, children are getting sicker and sicker. When we were kids, we ran around the hills and there was, we might get a couple of colds a year, but that's about the only sickness that I can remember. But there's a lot of sickness today. And there's a reason. Because Newton's third law of motion states, to every action there is an equal and an opposite reaction. And this should be on the tip of our lips at every stage. What is the reason? Why are these things happening? Proverbs 26 verse 2 states that the curse causeless shall not come. In other words, no problem happens without a cause. There is always a reason. And if you're ever told, if you're not well, it's just you, it's just something that happens to you, you've got every right to say, that's very unscientific, because there's always a cause. And so it's very important for us to put the detective hats on and find out, why are these things so? Now, how do we do that? One way to do it, and it's an important way to do it, is to look at the history, because we are a combination of everything that's ever happened in our life. Yes, our genes. Yes, the conditions that we were raised in, whether that be the physical, the mental, the spiritual, the emotional. We're a combination of all that. So history is very important. And symptoms. Symptoms are the body saying, excuse me, can you do something? Something's happening here. I need you to listen to me. I need you to respond. And then you try different things. And your body's response is your guide. Your body's response tells you, this is a good thing to do. No, don't do that again. And recently, having injured my hand, I listen. And this hand tells me what I can do and what I cannot do. It's quite simple. I believe everyone should be their own doctor, because only you know what you've been through. Only you know how your body responds or reacts to things. And only my hand could tell me what hurt and what didn't hurt. So I listened. And this is something that many people have lost the art of doing. Listening. If your body speaks, please listen. And if you don't listen to the first whisper, the body will start screaming. And when it starts screaming, it's doing damage. So that's a very important part. I'd like to have a look at the two main systems in the world today of healing. One is based on fear and one is based on faith. So let's have a look at the fear system. This fear system was based on the fact that we weren't created, we evolved. And because we evolved, we cannot heal. And because we cannot heal, then we need something to come into our bodies to heal it. And so what has been produced is drugs. But I think everyone will agree with me that the drug medication today is a deception. There is no doubt that in a crisis, a drug may save a life. There is no doubt about that. But drugs cannot heal you. They actually can never heal you. They might mask symptoms, they might actually bring some relief, but they do not heal you, because there's only one thing that can heal, and that's the body. And when you're sick and your body's not working, you need faith, because if you can see it, it's not faith. But I have faith that I live in a body that was created, and it was created to heal. It's an amazing process that whenever an injury happens to a body, immediately there are these incredible systems that are activated to start healing that body. We were created to heal. And when we're not well, maybe there has been an injury, not drugs, herbs. God also created the herbs. And the herbs work with the human body. They work with the human body to bring about healing. This is the truth. And I don't think anyone doubts the fact that when you cut yourself, it will heal. It will heal if you give it the right conditions. And if there is a cut, there are certain conditions that it needs. It needs to be cleaned. If there's dirt in there, that needs to be washed out. That's a bit of common sense. And then it needs to be held together, isn't that right? If there's a cut, it needs to be held together. It needs to be held together so that those cells can start to connect, so that that cut can heal. So how do we connect it together? Well, the old-fashioned way was to pour pine pitch in. And you can still buy bottles of pine pitch. You pour pine pitch in, and as that pitch dries, it actually pulls it all in. It's also got antibacterial properties in it, makes quite a nice scab. Stitch it can be stitched together, or sometimes just sticking plaster, butterfly clips it's called. So there are certain conditions that that cut needs to heal, and it'll heal if you give it the right conditions. We've looked at a 3-letter word and a 2-letter word. Now we're looking at the 1-letter word, and that's I. I am the master of my destiny. I'm the one that chooses what I do or what I do not to do to my body. And if I got a cut, I can choose, will I put pine pitch in it? Will I go and have it stitched? Will I put sticking plaster on it? And of course that hurts very much, and your body's response is the one that tells you this is a good way to go. God's government is a government of freedom, and freedom was based, or is based, on free choice. And God gave each human being the honour, the right, the ability to choose. To choose what we eat, to choose what we drink, when we eat, when we drink, how I deal with this broken hand. And so when I slipped on the rocks early December, and my body went up and came slammed down on that wrist, and the pain, whoa, that was extreme. And the look of my wrist told me I needed a little bit more help. And so I went to the hospital, and I'm thankful for the orthopaedic surgeon that was able to pull and the x-ray that showed that my bone was totally broken and out of alignment, and the skill of the orthopaedic surgeon, and praise God for pain-killing medication that was put into my arm that allowed him to pull that into place. And the next x-ray showed it was in place. I said to the surgeon, my husband's praying for you, we're praying for you. And so that was enough. And of course when I got home, then I started to put the comfrey poultices on, because I know that comfrey is an amazing herb that has a growth stimulant in it, and its nickname is knit bone. And here we are, we're 8 weeks later, and yes, the x-ray showed that that bone had healed very, very nicely. Something else though, and this is where I'm a little bit impatient, it takes time to heal. The 6 weeks that my hand was in plaster was I think one of the longest 6 weeks of my life. Doesn't seem long now, but at the time, mind you, I took it out a little bit earlier. I kept it immobilised, but I certainly put those herbs on. Time, and that's something a lot of us don't give the body time. My daughter, when she was about 5, she said, Mum, I'm going to grow up in a minute. Now we know she didn't grow up in a minute. Well, I wanted to heal in a minute, but it doesn't heal in a minute. When the plaster first came off, I could hardly bend my fingers like that. And now I can bend them like that. But that didn't happen overnight. Now I'm still getting to my full wrist, but I'm getting there. I have to be patient, something that I'm not very good at. But it takes time. Just as a baby grows, just as a plant grows, so that's how we heal, little by little by little. And we choose these two systems. And God said in 2 Timothy 1 verse 7, he says, I've not given you the spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. You know what a sound mind does? It considers. There's no need to fear. I just need to do the right conditions and give it a little bit of time, because I have faith that in another month I will be able to have a full fist. I have faith that in another month this thumb will be able to touch that little finger. Not quite yet. I just need to give it a bit more time. It's all right, because 2 weeks ago it couldn't even touch my second finger. So there is progress. If you can see it, it's not faith. I have faith that this hand will totally be healed. I don't fear, because I have faith in an incredible body that was created to heal. They're the two systems, and we choose, because it's our God-given right to choose what we do to our body, what goes into our body, and what doesn't go into our body. And the orthopedic surgeon, he told me what he was going to do, and it was my choice whether I let him do that. I wanted my bones in alignment. Interesting, when those bones were in alignment, I didn't have the pain anymore. You see, that severe pain when I sat by the beach holding my arm, that told me this is serious. This is serious. I've got to go and get a little bit of help for this to heal. But today, in medicine, many people are told they're sick because of their genes. So what I'd like to look at is genes. I'd like to look at the role that genes play. I'd like to look at, are genes the true cause of disease? And we're going to go, where we'll go many times this week, to what I call the CBD, the Central Business District of the human body, is the inside workings of the cell. So right inside the nucleus of the cell is the DNA, and the DNA is the genetic code that determines the colour of our eyes, the colour of our skin, the colour of our hair. Even though I've just hit 70, I've still got brown hair, because my father died at 92 with mostly black hair, a bit of grey. My mother died at 51 with brown hair. So both sides of my genes, and we've got 23 chromosomes from our mother, 23 chromosomes from our father. So both my sides were not grey. My husband's white, and both of his parents were white at 50. The DNA is a fascinating thing, and if you stretch out the DNA, it can be 2 meters long, and it's got a huge amount of information in it. If you put all the information that was in the DNA into alphabetical language, put it into paperback books, it would go to the moon and back. I can hardly get my mind around that. It's like an intense library. And this DNA is made up of the food that we eat. The outside strands are made up of polysaccharides. So polysaccharides basically means many sugars. And everything we eat is made up of many sugars. The juice that you're having liquid food at the moment, it's made up of many sugars. That's the outside strands. The inside bands is made up from amino acids, and amino acids is a breakdown from the protein that we eat. And you're getting your protein in your protein drinks. Yesterday, that lovely meal that you'll probably dream about for the next 2 days. Those sunflower burgers with sunflower seeds, a little tofu. There's the plant protein there. And they're all glued together by minerals. Minerals literally glues us together. Hippocrates said, let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. And he didn't know what I've just shown you now, that our very DNA is made up from the food that we eat. Nothing we do can change the fact, nothing I can do can change the fact that I'm white-skinned, blue-eyed, brown-haired, around 5'2". So it seems like nothing I can do can change the fact that my mother died a cripple in a wheelchair with rheumatoid arthritis at 51. It seems like a little step. But though I cannot change the colour of my skin, my height, I can change the genes regarding my health status. Isn't that good news? because you've probably noticed that I'm not a cripple in a wheelchair with rheumatoid arthritis, and I'm way past 51. I'm so glad that though genetics may load the gun, it is lifestyle that pulls the trigger. My mother didn't realise that so many things she was doing was actually feeding her arthritis. Many people are sick through ignorance, not realising that their lifestyle, even actually your emotional status, even what we think, definitely what we eat and drink, can turn our genes on or off. So I've been born with inherited genes towards rheumatoid arthritis, but I don't have it. But I have had a sore thumb for a couple of years, and I wear a castor oil compress on it every night, and it's happy. And so when they x-rayed my wrist, I said, "Did you see anything on that thumb?" Because it's taking a bit longer to respond, though it is responding. And the doctor said, "Oh, there's a bit of osteoarthritis there." And I thought, aha, I knew there was something there. And I was so happy. Why was I so happy? Because I've just hit 70 and that's all I've got, whereas my mother was a cripple in a wheelchair. Genetics loads the gun, but it is lifestyle that pulls the trigger. And that study is called epigenetics, the effect of our food, our lifestyle on our genes. We can actually turn those genes on or off by what we're eating and drinking. That's the good news. So what I'd like to look at is what affects these genes. We'll begin looking at it all week actually, but I'd like to know why we inherit weaknesses. And we inherit weaknesses that are in the DNA. So it's a message that comes through. It's like my father, all my life he had asthma. At the age of 50 he conquered it when he stopped dairy. When he stopped eating dairy, he stopped getting asthma. I'm one of 5 children. The first 4, no asthma. The 5th one, serious asthma. I remember the ambulance coming to our house and taking my little sister to hospital, serious asthma. I have 6 children. My 5th child, asthma. And I guess that's, some say it's the luck of the draw. I don't know how you'd describe it, but sometimes the genes come through and sometimes they don't. And we look at each other, we look at our brothers and sisters, our children, our nieces. Oh, they've got their father's legs, they've got their mother's nose. It comes through in all sorts of interesting ways. My sister conquered her asthma at the age of 40 when she finally stopped dairy and wheat. But my son, Peter, we conquered his asthma at the age of 2.5. And he was diagnosed with severe physiological asthma. We definitely stopped any dairy, we definitely stopped any wheat, but I also went to a naturopath and I discovered water treatments and herbs that I could give him. He had his last asthma attack at the age of 2. I'm so glad that though genetics loads the gun, it is lifestyle that pulls the trigger. So by the end of the week, you're getting a crash course this week, a crash course in how to look after this body. In fact, I think it's tomorrow night we're going to look at poultices, and I think Wednesday night herbs. I think another night we'll be looking at water treatments, just simple things that you can do to ease symptoms, and as your body responds you'll start to see, this is what is helping the body, because the body can heal itself. Sometimes it just needs a little bit of help in a few ways. So what I'd like to look at is what is damaging the DNA. Because if our body's designed to heal itself, why isn't it healing? It's because of the genes. It's because of the damage in the DNA. So what causes damage? 92% of DNA damage, we are told, is caused by a mineral deficiency. There's a book called The Calcium Lie by Dr. Robert Thompson. It's a fascinating book. He's a medical doctor, was about to get out of medicine because people weren't getting better, so he decided to do a nutrition course and his eyes were opened. 92% of DNA damage is caused by a mineral deficiency. What really opened Dr. Robert Thompson's eyes was that the food we eat today does not have the nutrients in it that it used to have. 80 years ago, it had twice as many nutrients as it has today. In fact, some figures are showing 80% more nutrients. And it's the mineral deficiency. So what causes the mineral deficiency? Well, if the soil's deficient, the plant's deficient, and the people that eat the plant will be deficient. So why is it deficient? Every step we should be asking why. It's because the same crops are grown year after year after year after year. When a crop goes in the ground, it's taking nutrients out of the soil to be able to grow, to be able to produce the corn or the apples. And if you don't replace those nutrients, then the apples and the corn, they don't have the it's basically minerals that they need. So when the person eats that plant, they're not getting the minerals that they need. An organic farmer will always feed the soil between crops. And they'll feed it mostly with compost. And we'll talk about compost a little bit more later. So mineral deficiency, soil's deficient, plants are deficient, people will be deficient. Let me give you an example. One organic tomato will give you 9 times the iron of a conventionally grown tomato, because organic farming feeds the soil so that the plant is nourished. But what's also happening is people are taking things that are leaching the minerals out. Caffeine. Caffeine does a couple of things. Caffeine disrupts the neurotransmitters in the brain, and we'll look at that a little bit more, I think, on the Wednesday lecture. And that's why people feel good when they have a cup of coffee, because it causes a crisis response. It disrupts the neurotransmitters. But what I specifically wanted to look at regarding minerals is it takes the minerals out, especially calcium and magnesium. And bones and teeth are deteriorating far too young today. Mineral deficiency is the caffeine's taking those minerals out. You see, it's a toxin to the body, and so the body gives it minerals to calm it down. But because it disrupts the neurotransmitters in the brain, it causes some damage in the DNA. So you can have a couple, both having a couple of cups of coffee a day, maybe a Coke. What do you have here? Dr. Pepper, maybe chocolate. If this is happening day after day after day, then that couple will conceive and have a child, and that child can have a tendency to autism, attention deficit syndrome, because they've been born with a gene that has disrupted the neurotransmitters in the brain. And they don't tell you that on the coffee packet, do they? What also leaches minerals is refined sugar. Nothing wrong with sugarcane. Sugarcane's actually incredibly high in minerals, but it takes about half an hour to eat 2 inches. But there's 10 metres of sugarcane in a can of Coca-Cola. That's 10 teaspoons of sugar. So it's a highly toxic drug. In fact, it's so toxic that when it goes into your body, it causes blood sugar levels to rise quickly, which means now very quickly insulin has to be released in high amounts. And then the insulin gets the blood sugar down, and then it goes too low, and then the person has some more sugar, and so you get this whiplash, and that wears out pancreases. Now we've got a weakened pancreatic gene. We've got some children today who have diabetes at 18 months of age. They haven't been on the planet long enough to beat up the pancreas. They've been born with a weakened pancreatic gene. Maybe it's because of the parents' sugar habits. And so sugar definitely can cause a weakened DNA to the pancreas, but it also leaches minerals. One writer said, "Sugar leaves the body better dressed than when it went in." What did it go in as? Naked, nothing, no minerals at all. It's a pure acid, that white sugar. And when it comes out of your body, if you were to test your urine, you'd find there was calcium and magnesium in the urine. And when those bones weaken, what's that called? Osteoporosis. There are cultures today, especially this was remarked on in the Blue Zone book, that are living till they're 100, no osteoporosis, fine health. Yes, they have aged a little, but they're still active and they're still healthy. I think the Okinawans, that's a Japanese island, and the Sardinians, I think Italian, living up in the mountains, and the Seventh Day Adventists. They're the three that ranked top in the Blue Zone, meaning they live long, healthy lives. And the three common denominators were, they're very active. The other common denominator is that they eat food in its natural state. It's not refined, not devitalised. Some of them eat meat, and if they do, it's only a very small part of the diet. And the third one was they're very social. We're social people, and it's an important part of us. So what's another one that leaches minerals out of the body is alcohol. Alcohol's a toxic poison. It was 15 years ago, the Australian Health Department put out a statement. I haven't seen the statement since. It says there is no safe dose of alcohol. It's toxic poison. Children are being born today with fetal alcohol syndrome from parents that have even a couple of drinks a week. You see, alcohol directly affects the liver and also the brain. And leaching minerals. The other is tobacco. Children are being born today with less alveoli in their lungs. They can even develop emphysema without ever having smoked. These are poisons that are leaching minerals out of the body. So can you see what's happening today? Another reason why the DNA is breaking down, or there is damage in the DNA, is big one is lack of minerals, and also the damage that these toxins cause. Another reason why damage is happening is genetically modified foods. Genetically modified foods is the result of the DNA of two different species being spliced together in the hope that they create a tomato that grows in the snow, but it actually doesn't. In fact, this tomato that's been genetically modified has many centres. It does not have the same molecular structure as a tomato that hasn't been genetically modified, and so this has the ability to damage our DNA. Vladimir Putin, Russia's president, he passed a law 20 years ago now, I think. Any Russian that grows genetically modified food is to be considered a terrorist, and he's even giving away land to Russians who will grow organic, non-GMO food. Now that's something that hasn't hit the newspaper, isn't it? There are many things about Russia that do hit the newspaper. I don't know, but I can't believe anything that I read in that newspaper. It's a bit difficult today. But genetically modified foods have the ability to damage the DNA. Electromagnetic field excess. We are electrical people, and the electromagnetic field that's coming out of the devices that we all have, phones, iPads, and computers, even those hands-free phones, they're pretty high. Now we all have them, and oh, how we love them. I'm so glad I can dialogue with my family on WhatsApp while I'm gone. But try and keep it away from your body. Have it out of your bedroom while you are sleeping. It's called the silent killer. And it has the ability to come in and damage DNA. Be especially careful on children's exposure. So many people find it easy to keep the kids quiet by what? Giving them a device. They're quiet until you try and take it away from them. You know, the best thing for kids, outside playing in the sand pit. You know, keep it very, very limited, because their skulls aren't as thick as ours, so it's causing damage more than even adults. And you know the worst place to put your laptop, don't you? Is on your lap. Protect the family jewels. Contributing to low sperm count and penile dysfunction in men. Also contributing to miscarriages in women, with girls that have had laptop, 10, 11, as those eggs are developing. And I was reading on a breast surgeon, and he said that it's alarming the amount of young women who are getting breast cancer in the breast where they put the phone in their sports bra. You can even buy a sports bra today with a pocket in it that you can put your phone in. And I wonder how many hip replacements are going to be happening in 40, 50-year-old people, whereas usually hip replacements happen in 70-year-olds, with the phone in the hip pocket, right where that femur goes into that pelvis. So yeah, keep it away from your body as much as possible. Also, chemicals. We are exposed to more chemicals today than any generation that ever lived on the planet. The good news is, and we'll be going through this tomorrow, is that we have a liver created by God that has the ability to detoxify us. Isn't that good news? And we'll be showing you the conditions that it needs to be able to detoxify us from environmental poisons. You've made a good choice to come here to Living Springs Retreat, where you're going through a 2-day detox that'll effectively, little by little, start to get some of the chemicals out of your body. It is estimated that we are exposed to 100,000 new chemicals every year. That's scary, isn't it? We have no say over the neighbour, but we have total say over us. We have total say over the clothes we wear, because there are fabrics today made in a chemical laboratory, and that is polyester, nylon, and acrylic. When I was a little girl, everything was cotton, except in winter we'd have a woolen jumper. Wasn't it prickly? Oh, it never touched us because we had our cotton shirt underneath the woolly jumper. It's coming in so many hidden ways, is the chemicals. Start to be aware of what's in your laundry detergent, what's in anything that is touching your body, particularly ladies, because the men, most of their clothes are just cotton, but ladies like the pretty things, and a lot of pretty things are made out of those chemicals. We'll look at fabrics a little bit more in another lecture. But just to show you the many hidden ways that we can be exposed to chemicals. Looking at the things that can damage the DNA. Also, what can damage the DNA is mould. Mould has the ability, and we see it in nature, it can splice into the DNA of plants. There's even a snail that when fungus gets into this snail, the little antennas grow longer and have colour in them. Does this happen with humans? Yes, it actually is a possibility. And mould is something that a lot of people don't realise is such a danger. If you read the Bible, it says if the house is mouldy, you've got to clean it up, get the mortar out. I guess most houses were made out of stone. Clean the mortar out, wash it all, remortar it, then the house was to be shut up. And then they'd come back 2 weeks later. If they opened it up and the mould had again grown, they had to dismantle the house and take it. It's in the old days in the Bible it said take it to an unclean place outside the city. Well, the house had to be destroyed. It's toxic stuff. This is why I wrote a book on it, because a lot of people don't realise the danger of mould. What is mould? It's a microorganism. What does micro mean? Microscopy, it means you can't see it with the naked eye. Organism, that means it's living. And microorganisms are everywhere. In fact, there's 10 times more microorganisms in the body than cells, and we have 100 trillion cells in the body. And there are 10 times more microorganisms in our gastrointestinal tract than anywhere else in the body. And whenever cell damage happens, these microorganisms have the ability to change roles. Let me show you. Let's say we've got a cat, and maybe the cat falls out of a tree and dies. What happens to the cat? It starts to decompose, yeah. And what causes it to decompose? It's actually the cells in the, once you get, the ultimate cell damage is, of course, death, it starts to break down. And these microorganisms now have the ability to change roles. They start to become the cleanup team. Or as one microbiologist said to me, we call them the garbage collectors. That's their role on planet Earth. I think here in the US you call it trash, is that right? Still garbage too? Garbage collectors. What's their name? Their name is bacteria. That's what bacteria is. That's what bacteria does. It has a role on the planet. It's to clean up waste. As the environment changes, so do the microorganisms. As the bacteria starts to break down the matter, because that's what these organisms are doing, it's their role in the cycle of life. Their role is to break up matter and bring it back to dust. Hand doesn't work, so I use teeth. Or doesn't work very well. That's what these microorganisms are doing. And that's what's happening with the dead cat, which is matter. These microorganisms are bringing it back to dust. And as the bacteria works on this matter, bringing it down, it changes. So as the bacteria breaks it down, we get changes. Now it changes into another form. It now becomes the exterminators. And the exterminator's name is yeast, fungus. Remember what we're drawing here. We're drawing the cycle of life. Another one is a virus. Yeast, fungus, they need a host, just like the virus does. That's what the exterminators are. As the environment changes, so do the microbes. They now become the undertakers. What do the undertakers do? The undertakers take away dead things. What's their name? That's the mould. And it's not long after the mould stage that the matter has now been brought back to dust. So what I've drawn for you here is the carbon cycle, or the cycle of life. And the cycle of life states, nothing's created and nothing's destroyed. It just changes form. That's what the carbon cycle is. It's designed by God. These microbes are designed by God. They have a role on the planet. And their role is to bring matter back to dust. And when you think about it, if it wasn't for these microorganisms, there'd be so much rubbish on the planet, you wouldn't be able to live on the planet. It's the cycle of life. And it's an integral part of understanding how the body works. Now the doctor, he was actually a chemist that made the germ theory famous, is Louis Pasteur. And everyone loved Louis Pasteur's theory because Louis Pasteur said, you poor thing, you're so sick, a germ has jumped on you and made you sick. Take this drug to kill that germ. But it actually defies reason, that theory. There was another contemporary at the time of Louis Pasteur named Antoine Bouchon. And this Frenchman said, disease is caused in us and of us. See, the two totally different theories. But no one really likes that theory. Disease is born in us and of us. Everyone liked Pasteur's theory because it takes away all responsibility for what's happening in the body. It's like the gene theory, genes cause disease. That takes away all responsibility for what's happening in my body. I'm blaming it on the genes or I'm blaming it on the germs. And in 2020, the whole world shut down because of a germ. But you know, a virus cannot live without a host. And why is it there? That's what we should be asking. Why is the bacteria there? Why are the yeast, fungus or virus there? Why is the mold there? And the CDC figures in 2021, 98% of people that came down with this virus recovered. So there was actually no need to shut the whole world down. And the ones that did go down had pre-existing health conditions. One girl said to me, my mother, she got so sick she had to be taken to hospital, even put on a ventilator. And I've spoken to many nurses that work in ICU in 2021, 2022. They said as soon as they go on the ventilator and the respirator, they die. Causes kidney damage. So I said to this lady, your mother, she's 50, she's quite healthy. I wondered why she went down so badly, and I investigated. Always put the detective hat on, because there's always a reason. And as I investigated, I couldn't find fault with the lady lives healthy. Then I discovered there's mold in the house. You see, mold can get into your body through the skin. You can breathe it in, and you can swallow it or go into the food, and it also can be transferred sexually. And I went, aha. So there was already a problem happening in her body, and this just tipped the scales. You've heard of the straw that broke the camel's back, and that happened in many cases. It was just the last straw. But let's have a look at Antoine Beauchamp and why he said disease is born in us and of us. He spent most of his life looking through a microscope. 6 times professor, most of us will never get to 1. 6 times professor, this guy. He knew his stuff. And he got a dead cat one day doing an experiment. Got a dead cat, wrapped it in an airtight container. Now what happens if a cat dies in the bush? I'll tell you what happens in Australia. The dung beetles come up, the blowflies lay their eggs and the maggots start to eat it up. The kookaburra has a nibble, the crow has a nibble, the dingo has a nibble. These are all the vultures, isn't it? The scavengers that help to bring matter back to dust. But Antoine Beauchamp, airtight container, no dung beetles, no worms, airtight container. After 4 months, he opened the container and the cat was dust. So what brought cat back to dust? The ultimate cell damage is death. So when the cat died, the microorganisms that played an integral role of living, running cat took off their suit of clothes, so to speak, and put their rubber gloves and apron on and became the garbage collectors, the clean-up team. As the environment changed, the exterminators. As the environment changed, the undertakers. Till eventually, cat was back to dust. What does the preacher say at the funeral? Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. What's he referring to? He's referring to the fact that in that coffin, soon that matter will come back to dust. It's the cycle of life. With great excitement, Antoine Beauchamp took the dust, put it under a microscope. It was alive with microorganisms. From the dead cat. Remember the basic law of science? Nothing's created and nothing's destroyed. It just changes form. And this is why we have compost bins. Here's a plant in my garden at Misty Mountain. We have 3 compost bins at Misty Mountain. And we put scraps from the kitchen, we put weeds from the garden. We like to alternate scraps from the kitchen and especially the corn stalks and the broccoli stalks, keeps it a little bit more aerated. And I put the compost into my soil. I always put compost in before I put another crop in. What am I putting into my soil when I put compost in? I'm putting in microorganisms. So I have 3 compost bins at home. They're about a yard by a yard. We call it a metre by a metre. 1 I'm adding to. 1 is sitting, waiting for the cycle of life to bring all the matter back to dust. The third compost bin, I know it's ready because tomato plants are coming up out of it, pumpkin plants are coming, sometimes pawpaw plants are coming out of it. And I've got a photograph of me squatting in the compost bin, not the other two, the one that's back to dust, and I'm smelling, and it smells like beautiful earth. It's ready to go into my garden, and it's full of microorganisms. Let's follow the life of the apple. It's microorganisms that cause the flower to develop. It's microorganisms that cause the apple to develop. But the apple's not ready to eat. It's too bitter. It has to ripen. What ripens the apple? The same microorganisms. They change roles according to the environment. And then no one eats the apple. What happens to the apple? It rots under the actions of the same microorganisms. They just change roles. Antoine Beauchamp gave another illustration. Mother hen sitting on 10 eggs. Someone comes and shakes the egg violently and puts the egg back under mother hen. They come back 2 weeks later, and little chickens are coming out. Where's the egg they shook? Mother hen has booted it out of the nest because of a bad smell. Gives off a pretty bad smell, all this stuff, doesn't it? What happened inside the egg? It's a sealed unit. Nothing came in there. It's a sealed unit. When I shook it, I caused massive cell damage. The microorganisms that would have been part of developing little chicken had to now change roles. They now took their suit of clothes off, so to speak, put their rubber gloves and apron on and became the garbage collectors, then the exterminators, till the undertakers, till eventually that rotten egg is what? Back to dust. It's the cycle of life. And so if any ever bacteria, fungus, mold are about, we've got to find out why. Why is it there? Florence Nightingale. Florence Nightingale, she was asked to go to Scutari. Scutari is the port where the Crimean War, wounded were being taken. Crimean War, British and the French were fighting the Russians. This is the Black Sea. The men were wounded were put in boats, taken down to Scutari. A war correspondent went there and discovered that 50% of the young men that got into that hospital were dying because it was filthy, raw sewage in the corridors. And so the British government asked Florence to go there and see what she could do. And she was, as a woman, she knew her limitations, and the doctor said, "You're not coming in here, this is men's business." They wouldn't even let her come in. So she went to the kitchen and it was filthy there. So she contacted the British government and said, "We need a sanitary commission to come and assess the situation." And this is what they found. The hospital was built in a swamp. And it was ex-army Turkish barracks. It wasn't even originally built as a hospital. And they found a dead horse in the swamp, and the men were drinking the water out of that swamp. Dead dog, another one, dead dog in the swamp. I'm shocked that the death rate wasn't 80%. Isn't it incredible what the human body endures? So very quickly, they got the drainage happening. They got the drainage happening in the hospital, so there was no more raw sewage in the corridors. Started to boil the water. Florence Nightingale was eventually allowed to come in because another shipload of wounded came, 1,400 wounded men. Hospital was already overflowing, so they let her in and she started cleaning and scrubbing. Within 2 months, the death rate went from 50% to 2%. When she went back to England, I think 14 months later, Queen Victoria, Prince Albert were there to welcome her. Big welcoming party. Oh, how they loved Florence Nightingale. She was saving the lives of their young men. And when she saw the welcoming party, she changed her name to Mary Smith, went down the back gangplank and went home. They said, "Why did you do that?" She said, "I'm not a heroine." She said, "I just increased hygiene, sanitation and nutrition." Got that? Hygiene, what's that? Keep the body clean. Sanitation, keep the house clean. And nutrition, you cannot heal without nourishment. This is back in 1850. 1854 she first went there. She knew that germs don't cause disease, and when she read of Louis Pasteur's theory that germs cause disease, she said, this is the theory of a man of a very unstable mind. And anyone who believes it is equally unstable, because germs don't cause disease, they're the result of unhealthful conditions. These microbes play a very important part on the planet. You see, in the soil, these microorganisms, they are responsible for the final breakdown of the minerals. They're responsible for the absorption of the minerals out of the soil and into the plant. These microbes protect the plant against any harmful pathogens that might be in the soil. These microorganisms nourish the plant. And the plant knows that it needs those microorganisms, so 50% of the fuel that it makes from photosynthesis, it sends back down to the roots to feed the microbes. It's almost as if the plant's saying, please stay, we'll feed you well. That's why the organically grown fruits and vegetables have a far higher mineral content, because of the microbes in the soil. And every time you put compost in the soil, you're putting more microbes in the soil. Soil should be live. Lining the gastrointestinal tract are villi that look just like the roots of a plant. They are lined with what we call the microbiome, the healthy or the friendly bacteria, Lactobacillus acidophilus, bifidus bacteria. And they line the villi with that. Can you pull that for me? Hand's not as strong yet. Thank you. Lined with these microorganisms, and these bacteria in the gut, they are responsible for the final breakdown of our food. They're responsible for the absorption out of the gut and into the blood. They protect the blood against harmful pathogens. They nourish the cells that line the gastrointestinal tract. Thank you. Are you starting to see that these microbes aren't our enemy? They're an integral part not only of life on planet Earth, but also in the human body. The human body was designed to heal itself. We just need to know how it runs. Because when we know how the body works, then we can work with that to bring about what the body can do and does very well when we let it, to bring about healing in the body. I'm going to give everyone a break now. We're going to have a 10-minute break, and when we come back, we're going to go one step further in our study of microorganisms.